All right, good morning and welcome to Daf Yevamos, Daf Chavches number 28. We have a wonderful shiur for you today. We're going to be talking about today um, basically a continuation of yesterday's topic about a question of Achos de Kukaso when two sisters fall to you for Yibum. Are you allowed to marry one, not allowed to marry one, if one dies or not? That was my focus yesterday in Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara is going to continue to discuss the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan today, and that ultimately will lead us to a diuk in our Mishnah in Iyun Ben Sion, where we'll discuss a specific word that Beishama uses in the Mishnah that Masoras Hashas fixes. If you do not fix the word, you have unbelievable Iyun Shir, which would explain a lot of things, explain why Rabbi Yochanan really doesn't hold up our Mishnah. We'll see. That's the last thing we said yesterday. Rabbi Yochanan is not going to be able to learn our Mishnah. He doesn't know who taught our Mishnah. It would make sense based on a specific diuk, specific inference from a word, the way a word was written in our Mishnah, which is in contrast to the way the Brisa describes the Machlokas and the Chav Chesem and Aleph. We'll get into that with Iyun Ben Sion. These cases are a little difficult. Towards the end of this daf, you will see some of the cases are extremely complicated, extremely difficult to deal with. Even if you write charts and have charts in front of you, you get a headache from looking at these charts. So we're going to keep it as simple as possible over here. And listen, Daf Yomi, you're not supposed to get 100% clear. I mean, ultimately, even if you learn Be'iyun, you'll never get anything clear anyway. It's just to give you a surface explanation, and that's all Hashem really wants from you. All you're responsible for is to learn it on the surface. If you have time, the perfect amount of time is about 8 to 10 minutes you can spend with Iyun Ben Sion, which is another segment that I have, another video that I put out every day, where you can learn to go more Be'iyun. No one says you have to learn the whole Daf Be'iyun. You can learn the Daf on a surface level with just Daf It, with the Daf Yomi shiur, and you can learn all Iyun Ben Sion, and of course, I've added to my repertoire Mishnah Yomi, 2 Mishnayos a day. We're learning Maseches Kilayim. If you haven't checked it out, be sure to check it out. I think it is revolutionary. I think it is the first Mishnah Yomi shiur that's actually has a video to it. I think if you go to the All Mishnah app, there's an app for Mishnah Yomi. They have some speakers over there, but they're only audio. I actually provide video. We're going to do it hopefully under 5 minutes, 2 Mishnayos. A lot of clarity that I think my shiur has over other shiurim. If you join this shiur, you'll understand why. Let's start today. Chazayim with Beis towards the bottom. Rabbi Yochanan said, I don't know who taught our Mishnah, because the Gemara asked from our Mishnah, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that once there's an Isser of Achos Zikukaso, as long as there was a het there, originally, for example, Reuven and Shimon are married to 2 sisters. This is the case in the Mishnah. Levi and Yehuda are also brothers, paternal brothers, but they're not married to 2 sisters. Reuven dies. Now, Reuven's wife, without kids, Reuven's wife dies, and she falls to Levi and Yehuda for Yibum. So, according to Rabbi Yochanan, why don't we say that one could do chalitza, lachlos and shnia, lego chad minayuf, the Gemara from yesterday, lachlos and shnia. And obviously, then the second wife dies. The wife of Shimon, then dies. So the first wife, she was at a het there, because when she was the only wife, she was not achos ukaso, or she was the only sister that fell. She wasn't a pair of sisters, so therefore there's a het there for her. And the second sister fell, so therefore achos ukaso for Levi and Yehuda. And then why can't they do chalitza? According to Rabbi Yochanan, at least could do chalitza. Shani could do chalitza. One of the brothers could do chalitza. The second lady who fell, and therefore the first lady was hutra. The Asr v'Chazra Hutra, Rabbi Yochanan is modeh in that case. That would go Le'teir Harishon. Why isn't that? Why don't we say that? So he basically is forced to say that. I don't know who taught our Mishnah. So the Gemara tries to revive Rabbi Yochanan from our Mishnah. 5 lines from the bottom. Alei malei my choltos. Nami the kasani choletzos. Maybe what does choltos mean? Not that both of them do chalitza. Only one of them do chalitza. Because the other one can do yibum. So the Gemara rejects it. Chada choltos ksani. It says it with a vav, not choletz. It's singular. But malei my choltos the alma. Maybe it is plural, but it means Uh, in general, in all these cases, meaning not just one case, in all the cases where this happens, where you have the Mishnah, one of the ladies has to do chalitza, not both ladies. It's talking about our Mishnah, one case of our Mishnah, it says Elu, both ladies need a chalitza. Maybe we're talking about a specific case in our Mishnah where the first person, the brother went ahead and was cholates the first lady first. And once he's cholates the first lady first, then it's a problem. Because then there was never a het there for the second lady. So I don't have this chosas l'chatchila on top of chav chesam and aleph kasani. Chosas sounds like l'chatchila, whatever way you want to proceed. It doesn't say if you did it b'diavad. Whatever way you want to proceed, they both do chalitza. But malay, why does Rabbi Yochanan say the Mishnah says they're both asur because zera delma kadam chalitza rishon? I mean, make a zera. Technically, you're right. You could be chalitz for the shniya, but you might come to chalitza for the rishona, Bereisha, and then it'll be a problem because then you can't do even to the second one. You should never had a het there. Below Yevamos katani, the lake din yibum hacha klal. The Mishnah says below Yevamos. It sounds like there's no din yibum at all. Not midarais has no din yibum. It's not because of a gzeira. Maybe you should tell me the Rabbi Yochanan. The Mishnah doesn't allow you to do this because if one person did chalitza, maybe the other person would die. It would die, and then you marry one of the sisters, and then you're going to be usher to the other sister, and you want to mitzvahs yibum. Rabbi Yochanan lemisa l'chayish. He's not choshish from misa. We know from other places he does not word on misa. V'leimalei Rabbi Yochanan say our Mishnah is Rabbi Yochanan. Hidamar came jam delav shachas be'isr nesha lav olamis. Rabbi Yochanan has a shita which is unique. It says even if there was a het there, but once she became asura for a second, once that second sister fell to yibum, and it became two sisters nazika, so then once she's asur for one shah, she can never be mutaris again. So the Gemara says in the Sefer Lezer, Reish Alav, at the end of our Mishnah, Rabbi Lezer says Rabbi Lezer explicitly, the beginning can't be Rabbi Lezer. Name who and the nafal basachas. Maybe say the Mishnah is talking about where both sisters fell exactly the same time. Reuven and Shimon died exactly the same time. Holds you can have exact, you can be precise. You can say precisely they died at the same time. We don't assume it's a second apart or a split second apart. The verse says lo sa sam lantana curiosity. We never find that an anonymous Mishnah follows basically the Velemale to lay a dina hainafal bereisha. Really, one died first, but we don't know. We didn't know how to account who died first, Reuven or Shimon. Whereas the Yahaki Hainu Kadmu Vakantu Yotziu. How could that make sense to say for what we say that if they go ahead and violate the Isser and marry these ladies, which they're not allowed to do, they have to get rid of the Mishlam Rishon Amri Anle Man Shar Yalah. The first brother who marries, who said, how could you mother your Pagabako is Gukaso? El Shnia Amar Chavrai Shnia, his friend can say Shnia Yibem Ani Rishona Miyabim. The first brother married the second lady who was Usser, who never had a shas heter, but we don't know who it was, but I was Miyabim, the first lady that fell, Reuven's wife that fell. So I don't know who taught this Mishnah. It's problematic. Right, if one of these sisters is also an Isra Erba, Bito, or any of the 15 Arayos mentioned in the first Mishnah or Masechta, one of them could do Yibum, the other one is Asr, because Achos Gukoso. So we even think that one of these cases, included in this case, is that the first Reuven's wife who died, who was the Erva, the Chamoso, right? Meaning Reuven's wife was a sister, and she is the mother-in-law of Levi. Why doesn't the other brother, go and marry the sister that's not his mother-in-law, Bereisha? But they have a chamos l'gabe idach k'yomar shehutra v'nesha v'chazra v'hutra. And I'm sorry, the chasan, meaning the one who has the mother-in-law, he's gonna be miyabim, right? He's an Isser Erva, so therefore there's no achas ukasa by him, so he could be miyabim the second lady, the wife of Shimon. But they have a chamos l'gabe idach k'yomar shehutra v'nesha v'chazra v'hutra. And the mother-in-law, regarding the second brother, she was Hutra. Then she became Asr. She was Hutra when she fell for Yibum. She was the only sister. And then she became Asr. because Achaz Ukaso, and then she became Hutra because he was Miyabim, the other lady. So therefore, they're no longer sisters, Bezika. This is another question of Yochanan from Mishnah. Papa, you go to Nach Lahachta Enachamosa Reisha. We're going to say in the case of our Mishnah, the first sister to fall was not the Chamos, it was not the Erva. In which case, there'll always be an Isra Achaz Ukaso to start with. There was never a Heter Reisha. Rezer Rav Omer Beishamai Omer Tanya Rezer Omer Beishamai Omer Mikaimu. Beishamai says you can, even if the two brothers who have a Zika to two sisters, they do Yibum on both of these sisters, each of them does Yibum on one of them, they can say you're married. Beishamai Omer Miyosio, Beishamai says you have to get rid of them. Rav Shimon Omer Yikaimu, or Shimon says they can keep them. Abba Shalom Omer Kal Yalah Beis Hillel B'Davar Zeh. Beis Hillel were actually Mekel over here. Beishamai Omer Miyosio, Beis Hillel Omer Yikaimu. He has the exact opposite form of Rabbi. He holds Beis Hillel as the man of Mekel over here. Rav Shimon, come on, who's Rav Shimon says? He says Yikaimu Beis Shammai Hainu Rabbi Ezer. If he says Yikaimu, he's speaking in the name of Beis Shammai. He lived after Beis Shammai's Hill. He had to take one of their opinions. So if he holds like Beis Shammai, he's the same thing as Rabbi Ezer. He Beis Hillel Hainu Abba Shal. He's not saying Abba Shal. Why is Rav Shimon saying his own opinion? Haki Gamar Lo Nechlu Beis Shammai's Hill B'Davar. He held that actually Beis Shammai's Hill never argued about this. And as opposed to the Mishnah, the Tana Kama Mishnah, which says everybody agrees, Yotziu, Rabbi Shimon holds Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai both agree that Yikaimu. Now it's interesting over here, in the quote Rabbi Lezer, Beis Shammai only Yikaimu with a vav, both of them. In our Mishnah, it says, if you look carefully at our Mishnah, Beis Shammai Lezer Omer Beis Shammai Omrim Yikayim. The Mishnah on Chavav and Aleph Yikayim. One of the brothers should Yikayim. He can keep the wife. Not both of them. Now, Masoret Hashas fixes it, or thinks they're fixing it, and says Sarach Lomar Yikaimu. Sarach Lomar, I don't know where they know Sarach Lomar. Anyway, I have a very interesting chiddush based on the fact that it actually says the word Yikayim, singular, which would lead you to explain another reason why Rabbi Yochanan couldn't understand our Mishnah. And if he doesn't hold our Mishnah, which seems to be the honest opinion, who does he hold like? Which price does he hold like? Based on this, I have an answer. Stick around for Ben Zion. Comment up after this share. Okay, the Gemara says, Achas Mehen. So, if one of them was an Isser Erva. So the Gemara says, Hatanina, if one of them was an Erva, so they can marry the other one. Hatanina, Zimna. We learned this already one time in a Mishnah on Daf. Where is this Mishnah? This Mishnah, the Nafchafam and Aleph. So when they're two sisters, but there's an erva, so you could do chalitza yibum. Suricha the hasam mishum delekal migzor mishum sheni. That case is a little different. In that case, Nafchaf is talking about again where there's only three brothers. Reuven and Shimon are married to sisters, and there's Levi. It's not Levi and Yehuda. It's not second brothers. So Achaz Ukaso happens to Levi. Reuven dies and Shimon dies. So now Levi has two sisters and a zika to him. He can't proceed obviously with chalitza or with yibum. But if one is an Isser Erva to him, so then if one is an Isser Erva to him, then he can marry the other one. So that why do you have to say both cases? There's no reason he goes there because of the second one. Because if we allow one to do Yibum, right? There in Daf Chaf, if one does Yibum, that's fine. There's only one brother. No one's going to learn to do an Isser. But here, if we allow one brother to do it, the one who has the Erva, so there's no Achaz Ugaso for him. So maybe the second one who has Achaz Ugaso will be lenient in Achaz Ugaso. Maybe we make a Gzeira, even the one who has the Erva can't marry the other one. Yashmin Hachav, which is said over here, Mishndika Sheni, the Kamuchach. Because there's a second one where people will learn there's an Isra Achuz Ugaso. Al Hassam, the Lake Sheni, there's no other second person. Maybe there would be Gozer. Why would we Gozer over there? Because we see that the whole Isra Achaz Ugaso doesn't apply over there. People think, oh, there's no Achaz Ugaso. He has Zika two sisters. One of them's an Erva. So people think, oh, there's no Isra Achaz Ugaso. They won't know that's because one of them is an Erva, and therefore there's really not Achaz Ugaso, Zikukaso. Isra Mitzvah. The Mishnah says one of them is Isra Mitzvah. It's not the same as Isra Erva. So in other words, Hanami Tanina, we also learned this. Isra mitzvah of Isra kedusha. Choletzes v'lo Yevamos. There's also a mission on Daf Chafman Aleph. If this is talking about a regular case of Yibam, if one is Isra mitzvah, Shniya, or Isra kedusha, or a lav, right, that falls to Yibam. So you do chalitza, not Yibam. Here also, that it's not considered an erva. The Maharsha Hasam Isra mitzvah l'chuda. Hacha Isra mitzvah b'achos. So here it's different. Why does it say our case? Because not only is Isra mitzvah Shniya, she's also the sister. Zachal also achas ugach. So sachadek mina leikum Isra mitzvah makom Isra erva. You might think when you're dealing with sister achas ugach, so therefore you can consider the Shniya almost as an erva. Because again, achas ugach only is a derabanan. So the Isra mitzvah can be called an erva derabanan, and therefore it should matir the whole Isra achos ugach. So with this yabim, you can marry the other one. Kamash malan, you can't with this yabim. Remember, this yabim came the rice of Ramya kamei kapag b'achas ugach. Remember, how could you even have a habim? Meaning to do yibam. Since the rice the rice Isra mitzvah is only the rabbanon, so therefore it's really achas ugach. How can you do this? Mitzvah avu rabbanon kamash malan. You might think because it's only a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah because of the mitzvah of Yibam, they were matir the Isra of Achas Ukas, which is only the Rabbanan. Kamashman, they didn't matir it. How you say Achas Mehen? If one of them was an Isra Erba. So the Gemara says, Hasu Lamali. Why do you need this case also? Right? This case is where one of them's an Erba, one of them's not. Hainu Mali L'chad, Mali L'trei, Sricha, the Ashmin Hasam, Mishum Dika Sheni, the Mukach. Over there, meaning the case where there's only one of them's an Erva, one of the sisters in Erva, not both of them are Ervas. So therefore, you have the second one, which shows is when you have two sisters and both of them are Ervas, and each of them can be Ab, and the one that's not an Erva to them, Amalo, I would say there's no way of proving Achos Ukasa. We don't allow you to do it. We said over here, because you have two ervas, so they show, the reason you can marry the opposite one, and one that's not an erva, and the other one can marry the one who's not an erva, they show that's the reason to know Achos Ukasa. Idach lo, other case, no, there's only one erva. I would still think there's a problem. People are going to learn not to be lenient in Achos Ukasa. Sricha has to say both cases. Zui sha'amru. This is what it said. Zui is an exclusion. What does it come to exclude? It's talking about a case where the two arai is not an Isra Erva, the two sisters, and one of them, each of them are Shniya to the other one, to the other brother. That's the case of, we said before, Isra Mitzvah. Mali l'chad, mali l'trei. Mali the same, and the word says, no, you need both cases. Isra Mitzvah, Makom Isra Erva. We don't treat Isra Mitzvah like Isra Erva, Heichad Ikal and Migzar. Mishim Sheni, because it's going to be Mekel by a second brother. But in a case where there's no second brother, meaning with both of them are Isra mitzvahs, so therefore they both can do Yibam, Ema lahai, ukimna Isra mitzvah, makom Isra erba, lahai ukimna Isra mitzvah, makom Isra erba. We'll treat both Isra mitzvah like Isra erba. And there'll be no Isra achas ugaso. When they can do it through Yibam, Kamashman, we're concerned. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, this line in the Mishnah, where we say that both of them are arayos, but they're not arayos to each other, so therefore each one can do yibam to the other erva, to the one who's not an erva to them, to the erva to the brother. So all the 15 cases in the Mishnah, all the 15 arayos can make sense. Rav Yehuda says though, they Rabbi only meant to say by the last 9 cases in the Mishnah, not the first 6 cases in the Mishnah. That he didn't mean to include. My time, I came in the bita my own sin in the mishkachasla. Right, the first 6 cases deal with a daughter, the issue of a daughter and a mother marrying a daughter, a mother marrying a daughter, and a granddaughter marrying a mother and a granddaughter, a grandmother and a granddaughter. You can't be married to 2 of them at the same time. That only applies. That it would only make sense in our case in the paradigm of our Mishnah on Daf Chavav, again, where you have 2 brothers who are married to 2 sisters, and then there's 2 more brothers, and they fall to Ibam, right? So each one is an erva to the other woman, not to the other one. That would only apply if Reuven and Shimon fathered. I guess it would be the daughter. Reuven and Shimon fathered a daughter who was a daughter to Levi and Yehuda. They married Levi and Yehuda had a child out of wedlock with Reuven and Shimon's wife. Reuven and Shimon were allowed to marry her, but then the daughters fell to them, right? The daughters fell to Levi and Yehuda. But Nesuin lo mishkachas, but you can't find it by Nesuin. If they're married, then you wouldn't have this, because if they're married, so it wouldn't work out, because then it would be the daughter. It would already be considered his daughter. So it doesn't apply. Our mission is only talking about cases where normally in Jewish halakha you get married, you have children out of marriage, not out of wedlock. Abaye says even you could include those 6 cases, because the Mishnah would include bitam and usaso. As long as it's applicable, even as an onsin is a rape, but it can mean even if it's consent out of wedlock. That's all I mean. But one of the cases, the 14th case, that it only applies to 14 out of the 15, not to the 15th. It only applies according to Reb Shimon, not according to the Rabbanon. The pluxalo kamairi. Reb Chia never would say something that only applies to one opinion, only according to Reb Shimon. Rav Safra argues, we could include it. What would the case be according to Rabbi Shimon? Let's explain this case. The Gemara explains it. Reuven and Shimon nesuin shtei achayos. Reuven, there's 6 brothers. Reuven and Shimon are married to 2 sisters. Levi Yehuda nesuin shtei nachri. Levi Yehuda are also alive, contemporary with Reuven and Shimon. They're married to 2 other ladies who are not sisters. Meis Reuven nolad Yisachar. So Reuven dies, and one of these sisters falls to Yibam, to Levi and Yehuda, and then before anyone marries, and Yisachar, our 5th brother, is born. V'yivim Levi, and then Levi goes ahead and is Miyabim, the wife of Reuven. Meis Shimon, and then what happens? Shimon, the 2nd oldest brother, dies. Nolad Zvulun, and then Zvulun, the 6th oldest brother, is born. V'yibim Yehuda, and then Yehuda does Yibum. Meis Levi Yehuda. And now what happens next is that Levi and Yehuda die below Bon. V'naflu la kame Yisachar v'Zvulun. These 2 sisters fall in front of Yisachar and Zvulun. Asur l'zem muteres zeh, asur l'zem muteres hazeh. Okay, so how did it work out according to Reb Shimon? We know Reb Shimon holds. So Machlokes in Rabbanan and Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon holds that Eish Achar Shalaya B'Olomo would apply only in a case where, let's say, there's 3 brothers, right? 2 contemporary brothers, and one brother, Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Reuven dies. Shimon, Levi is not born yet. Reuven dies. Then Shimon has an opportunity to Yibum with. So if Levi is born before Shimon actually consummates that Yibum, so even Reb Shimon's moda is called Eish Zachar Shalaya B'Olamo. That was the maskan of the Gemara we learned earlier on Daf It. But, or Yutes or Chaf, I forgot which one. But Reb Shimon would say that he would argue on the Rabbanan that say that Shimon married Reuven's widow, and then Levi was born. So when Levi was born, even though he was not contemporary with Reuven, but because he was born in a situation where she was already married to Shimon, so therefore it's considered a contemporary brother. And Reb Shimon would agree that it becomes mutter. So that enables us to find this case where Eish Zechar Shalaya B'Olamo would apply to Yisachar and Zvulun, meaning one wife would be for Yisachar and Zvulun. Yisachar would be, one of these sisters would be Eish Zechar Shalaya B'Olamo for Shimon, for Yisachar, and the other one would be Eish Zechar Shalaya B'Olamo for Zvulun, but each of the other can marry the other one, meaning Yisachar is the 5th brother, so he is a contemporary brother of Shimon, because Shimon died after he was born. So he's contemporary with him. So his wife he can marry. That sister from Shimon he can marry. That's Yisachar. But he can't marry Reuven's widow because when he was born, she was already Nafal Yibam. She was not married yet to Levi or Yehuda. The other brother, Zvulun, he cannot marry Shimon's wife, because Shimon's wife never had Yibam done to her after he was born, So therefore, she's Eishach Shalaya B'Olamo. But Reuven's wife, he could have, only according to Shimon, because Reuven's wife was already married to Levi. So when she's married to Levi, according to Shimon, married to Levi, so that makes it contemporary for him, for Zvulun. For Yisachar, it would be contemporary. For Zvulun, though, it would be contemporary because by the time he was born, she was already married to Levi. So therefore, each of these wives, each of these sisters, are considered Eish Zechar Shalaya B'Olamo to the other one, but not to one, but not to the other, each to the other. So therefore, they can marry each other. So that's how you have all 15 cases. So where's the Achos Sheyivim to Alamali? Okay, Achos Sheyivim. That was included in the previous verse. So the Gemara says Lamali Yibim Yehuda. In this complicated case, why do you talk about Yehuda actually doing Yibum? You find out if you go through the case again. Yehuda, who is the fourth brother, doesn't actually have to do Yibum. Below Yibum, Yehuda Namesh Chachasla. You'd also find exactly the same thing. Even if Yehuda doesn't do Yibum, it wouldn't make a difference. Only practical difference if Levi is the one who has to do Yibum. Because by Levi doing Yibum, therefore it allows the last brother, Zvulun, to be born in a situation where she's already the wife of Levi, and it would be contemporary brothers for him. You don't need Yehuda to do Yibum. That's not important. Why did they say Yehuda did Yibum? So it says Mishum Sarah. The reason that Yehuda did it is because it would have a ramification for the sorrow. Our Mishnah was talking about not just the arayos, but for the sorrows. The part of the sorrows also. The Mershantena Sarah the Sarah Ma'ikal. I mean, it would only work out for one Sarah, but the Sarah, meaning if you take the Sarah as the co-wife, right? Just like the Erva Pater is also the co-wife of the Erva Paters. Meaning if the Sarah would go ahead and remarry, so therefore it would Pater her Sarah. The Sarah would go ahead and remarry, and then she was married to somebody else, and then the husband died. So because the Sarah got the status of the Erva, so therefore she transmits the status of the Erva to the Sarah also. That you need more brothers. Michael, remember, can go into Hadar v'Yeminu Nami Gad v'Asher. You have to add in two more brothers, Gad and Asher, in the situation, and you'd have a total of 8 brothers, and a very complicated case. I don't know if you want to go through this. I didn't really go through this. Try to figure it out if you want to. I don't think you need to. There's 8 brothers. Figure it out. It'll end up being that you'll have Sarah also included, in which case you'll have Avachosa Yishivim to Asura Lazem Mutera says that even by all 15 cases in our Mishnah. Wow, this is complicated stuff. You know what this is reserved for? This really should be reserved, some of this Masechta, for these math whizzes. You know, I had this guy in high school. He was a math genius. His name was Asher Walkover, I think his name was. I don't remember his name. The guy was a genius, a mathematician. I don't know where he is. I think he went to Harvard or something. I don't know. I wonder where this person is in life. I mean, he was pretty much a recluse by himself, but he was a crazy smart kid. He knew all these very hard mathematical questions. I don't know. He didn't do that much better than me on the SATs. I got a pretty high score on the SATs. What that score is, you can guess. Put in the comments. If you guess it right, I'll tell you. If you don't guess it right, I'll give you a hint. All right, we'll see you in the other minute. See you one coming up. I need like a good segue. What this is good. Like the center into the screen. Coming up next.